everybody, and thanks for joining us this week on Up in the Air. I'm Casey Herman.
And I'm Nathan Flinchbaugh.
There's so much we have to talk about this week. 17-year cicadas, weather phobias, and our own Casey LaHecca has a feature on extreme weather.
That's right, and of course Hunter will stop by later at the Climate Wall with the details of what we can expect over the next few weeks.
We'll have all that and more, but first, here's Update in the Air.
Wheat found buying interest on Sunday as cold weather in the plains put a premium on prices, while corn and soybeans drifted lower to start the week. In outside markets, crude was modestly lower, while stock futures were up going into the morning session. Weather in Oklahoma and Kansas was colder than expected over the weekend. Extreme low temperatures in the range of 5 to 16 degrees Fahrenheit occurred from eastern Colorado and far western Kansas to western Nebraska, and might have been cold enough for permanent crop damage if wheat had reached more than its advanced joint stage. Similar conditions were suspected for crops from the northern Texas Panhandle through southwestern Kansas to west central Kansas, where low temperatures were in the teens. After warming up to the 80s this week in that area, another cold spell is expected going into this coming weekend.
Visitors have seen California's Shasta Lake over the past few years shrinking and shriveling in the grip of a historic drought. But the rains came this winter, fueled by the El Nino pattern, and have replenished the lake. It's been such a beneficial rainy season that Shasta Lake may return to full pool by the end of March. The lake dropped all the way down to just 29% of capacity. 1 week ago, officials announced the winter rains had brought the lake back up to 67% of capacity. Other nearby reservoirs have also been quickly on the rise during the recent wet season. Even more surprising than the rapidly rising lake was when an old mine shaft was discovered in January. It may have been revealed when the heavy rain caused the soil to move. While it's surely great news that the lakes are filling back up after years of decline, that doesn't mean the Golden State is going to be completely healed from the drought. California relies on well water for the 4% of its supply, and that takes considerably longer to replenish, NBC Bay Area reports.
Do you have a weather-related phobia? Wicked weather can unnerve even the calmest people. Mental health professionals say it's okay to a degree. People who have feelings of being fearful, being anxious towards things that happen in everyday life, and it's adaptive for us because it gives us that flight or fight response, according to Dr. Joe Taravella, a licensed clinical psychologist at New York University's Medical Center Rusk Rehabilitation. Some research has found that as many as 1 in 10 people suffer from a severe weather-related phobia. Experts agree that one of the best steps you can take to lessen anxiety is to make a plan, being that you can't change the weather, but you can change the way you react to it. Staying informed is part of the planning process, but being plugged in 24/7 may not be in your best interest. Taravella recommends limiting yourself to watching the news every couple of hours.
In the Northern Hemisphere, the spring equinox promises warmer days and green plants. But for researchers at NOAA's South Pole Atmospheric Baseline Observatory, Sunday, March 20th marks the start of the austral autumn, the last time they see the sun for 6 months. The observatory is part of the U.S. Amundsen Scott South Pole Station, which only the hardy visit even during summers. In winter, it's so cold aircraft can't fly and scientists are marooned until late October. The Atmospheric Research Observatory, the third-generation clean air facility located at the South Pole, maintains the longest atmospheric carbon dioxide record on Earth. Continuous long-term atmospheric records show how factories, households, and cars thousands of miles away are changing the chemistry and composition of cleanest air on Earth. Although the 9,300-foot altitude and temperatures dipping below negative 100 degrees Fahrenheit make this one of the most inhospitable research sites on Earth, there are benefits. The vast, flat polar plateau offers remarkable and unobscured views of the southern constellations, streaking satellites, and the evanescent aurora australis, from a vantage that few other humans have ever seen.
A 6.0 magnitude earthquake was recorded near the island of Barbuda in the eastern Caribbean Sea early Saturday morning. The strong quake was centered around 76 miles northeast of Codrington, Barbuda, the island's most populous city, around 7:30 a.m. local time, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Of the cities exposed, the largest populations in the affected area were that of St. John's and Basseterre, the capital of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis in the West Indies. Though the tremor registered at 6.0, minimal damage was seen on nearby islands. Light shaking was felt as far south as Dominica and as far west as St. Martin, while nearby cities were fortunate to avoid significant damage. Quakes in the Caribbean can be widely destructive. For example, in January 2010, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake killed at least 160,000 and displaced another 1.5 million in Haiti.
Parts of the Northeast will hear the distinct buzzing sound of 17-year-old cicadas this spring. Meteorological cicadas are classified into different broods and can arrive from underground in 13 or 17-year cycles, according to the National Pest Management Association. The broods are named based upon the geographic regions as well as the timing of their emergence. This year's grouping will emerge in southwestern and southeastern Pennsylvania, as well as other portions of the northeastern United States. This brood was the last seen in 1999. Entomologists say the cue for the insects to begin to move around ground occurs when soil temperatures reach around 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Recent rainfall can also be a factor. This year's warmer winter conditions across the northeastern United States would not likely impact the arrival of the cicadas, and there have not been any reports of early sightings. Typically, the cicadas will first be heard in late April or early May. Cicadas are considered more nuisance pests than detrimental. However, they can present a concern to fruit-bearing trees. Periodical cicadas are the longest-lived insects in North America, and their sudden springtime emergence is a key reason for why the insect generates so much curiosity, according to information from Penn State's Entomology Department. We'll be back in a moment with more. Thanks for tuning back in.
We now have a special feature on extreme weather from our very own Casey Lacka.
Extreme weather events are becoming more prevalent day to day, and the intensity of these events is also increasing. With climate change at the forefront of some people's minds, the question about whether these two events are related often comes up. Although a direct cause and effect relationship cannot be explicitly defined, there are certain events that would have intensified effects and occur more frequently. Specific events such as hurricanes, heat waves, drought, wildfires, floods, and winter weather can all be affected by climate change. Warmer ocean temperatures increase the energy encapsulated in the water, which allows for hurricanes to be fueled faster and increase the intensity. Intensity and frequency are two different sides of the relationship between climate change and extreme weather events. But if the climate keeps warming up, the frequency of hurricanes will also increase. Higher wind speeds, increased amounts of precipitation, and a larger storm surge could all be strengthened with a warmer climate. Although it seems counterintuitive to say warmer climate intensifies snowstorms, that has been the case multiple times. With warmer water temperatures and colder air temperatures sweeping across the ocean, it picks up the moisture from the ocean and falls as snow across the land. With a larger difference between air and ocean temperatures, it helps to intensify precipitation amounts. The National Research Council stated that projections point to dry areas expected to get even drier and wet areas to get even wetter. Instead of asking whether or not climate change causes these extreme weather events, it might be better to pose the question as to was that weather event influenced by climate change? For Up in the Air, I'm Casey Lahecka.
Tropical cyclones are devastating. Meteorological events are never something you would want to expect. Recently, though, researchers have been trying to make a connection between climate change and the intensity of these massive storms. The intensity, frequency, and duration of North Atlantic hurricanes have all increased since the 1980s. So has the number of strong hurricanes in Category 4 and 5. These increases are all due in part to warming sea surface temperatures in the areas where the Atlantic hurricanes form and pass through. While scientists are still uncertain to whether the frequency and the duration of hurricanes will increase in the future, they are making significant links between the intensity of these storms as well as the rainfall rates for these hurricanes. An active area of research involves determining how much of the sea surface temperature increase can be attributed to natural causes versus human causes, and whether the frequency and the duration of hurricanes will continue to increase into the future. While researchers try to make the link between climate change and those warming sea level temperatures to those frequency of hurricanes, are certainly a destructive event we don't want to see. For Up in the Air, I'm Ann Rodden.
Thanks for tuning back in. We're now at March Madness. How's your bracket holding up, Nathan?
You know what, I'm not that big of a basketball fan, so I didn't put much effort into it, but I certainly didn't have Middle Tennessee winning, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not much of a basketball fan either, but I hear Hunter's bracket is doing pretty well. How about it, Hunter?
You know what, guys? I picked Stephen F. Austin, picked Northern Iowa, picked Middle Tennessee. My bracket's holding up pretty well. Nathan, there's always next year, so don't worry about it too much. But as we look at the current snowfall across the Northeast, you can see a fresh coating of snow for a lot of areas on the East Coast, including New York, up through Boston, up into parts of Maine, from snow that just fell. In fact, here in central Pennsylvania, we actually got in on a little bit of the action as well. We had the tweet coming in from our good friend Quinn Lease. Quinn says, Mother Nature giving us one last taste of winter here in State College on this second day of spring, a flower just popping up there through the dusting of snow that we received this week. So a beautiful image. A big thanks to Quinn Lease for that picture. But as we shift our focus to next week's pattern, you can see the warmest of the air stays well to our south, the coldest of the air up to our north. So here we're just looking at a fairly average pattern as we head into next week. But let's shift gears, head into the next 8 to 14 days, the period March 29th through April 4th. You can see slightly above normal temperatures here, just kind of hugging the East Coast, pushing up towards the north and the Canadian border. But for a lot of folks, really extending down through western Pennsylvania, down into parts of the deep south, we're looking at below normal temperatures, slightly below normal that is, but a below normal category for Chicago, folks in Minneapolis. But as we shift our focus off to the west, we do have pockets of above normal temperatures, especially through parts of Southern California, kind of edging into Arizona there, up through Nevada, and a pocket of above normal temperatures. And this includes San Francisco up through Oregon, as well as Washington, excuse me. But these areas, of course, in the drought, we'll continue to watch this as we head through the next couple of weeks. Here's the precipitation outlook, slightly above normal for just about the entire East Coast, and the above normal category for extreme southern Florida. This includes Miami. And as we push out west, kind of a different view than what we have typically seen. In fact, we have the slightly below normal pocket right here across extreme southern Texas, around the Mexican border, and across the Four Corners states, slightly above normal for this area and slightly below normal for areas of Northern California. Again, these are some of the drought-stricken areas dealing with below normal precipitation as well as the above normal temperatures. That's not the combination that we want to see. So we'll shift our focus now to the drought outlook, and still the ongoing drought for parts of central California and many areas out west. That's not what we want to see. And of course, this drought has been going on for quite some time now, and unfortunately, we do not see any end to this drought in sight. But that's all I have here at the Climate Wall. I'll toss it back to the desk now to Casey and Nathan.
All right, thank you, Hunter. Unfortunately, that's all we have this week for Up in the Air. But remember, we're going to be back in exactly 1 week with the brand new episode of Up in the Air.
That's right. But for now, I'm Casey Herman.
And I'm Nathan Flinchbaugh. We'll see you next time, Up in the Air.